Hey guys, somehow I keep picking the hottest day of the week to do these reviews, so I'm sorry in advance, but we got our Attack on Kitten t-shirt and might do some hand waving, it's fine. Let's talk about this book. So today I am reviewing 1,000 Miles by Bridget Morrissey. This was a book that I got from Edelweiss, so thank you to the publisher and Edelweiss for giving me access to this free ARC in return for my review. And I had a lot of feelings about this book when I first requested it. So as you know, I am a huge fan of second chance romances. I mean, you might not know if you're new here, hi, but I'm a huge fan of them and I've been reading and reviewing a lot of them lately. But I did feel like this book, it's certainly not a new trope like the road trip trope, which we'll talk about. And specifically considering books that I have reviewed on this channel, it reminded me a lot of the plot of Beth O'Leary's The Road Trip, which I read and adored and I think is like my favorite Beth O'Leary book. So when I saw the description for this book, I went, is this going to be different enough? Is it going to be interesting enough? So basically the plot here, it centers around Dee and Ben. Dee and Ben were best friends growing up. They were absolutely inseparable. And when they were in high school, they went on this huge multi-state road trip to go visit Ben's grandmother in Colorado. And they said that in 10 years, they would go back and do that road trip all over again. So a couple of things happen on this road trip. Obviously there's some shenanigans, but the big thing is that on this road trip, they realized that after years of them both, being into each other, but not realizing the other person felt that way, that they slept together. This turned out to be a terrible mistake. The morning after, confusion, conversation, feeling, it's all just like a teenage mess, and their friendship began to fracture. Ben took someone else to prom despite promising Dee he would take her, and so in the intervening 10 years they have not spoken at all. By this time, Dee is a professional podcaster. She has made a podcast kind of about her life. She's very personal, and it's called Did I Forget to Tell You? And essentially she started talking about her own life and her family's life, but like talking about personal secrets that are just like these crazy things you can still find out about people you know really well. And they're like, oh, did I forget to tell you? I was once, I don't know, something crazy, a scuba diver, treasure hunter, I don't know. But that's kind of what her show is about. But there's always been this one person she's never talked about, and all of her listeners know him as name redacted. And of course that person is Ben. But this guy has like a whole Reddit subreddit devoted to trying to figure out who name redacted is. Dee is on a break from her podcast when Ben, 10 years later, after 10 years of not talking, shows up at her door. And it turns out that in the intervening 10 years, Ben's grandmother has died. He needs to go back to her house to pack it up. And also Ben has found out that he is not his father's biological son. So in a peak of just like life turmoil, he has decided to take a chance, show up at Dee's doorstep, and ask her if she'll go on this road trip with him. Obviously, there's a lot of unresolved feelings. There's a lot of stuff from 10 years ago. There's a lot of stuff from now. And Dee decides, I'm on a break from the podcast? Sure. So my favorite thing about second chance romances is the amount of personal baggage and emotional baggage that often has to get worked through in these books. And this book is a very intimate setting for that, because unlike, for example, in Beth O'Leary's The Road Trip, they go into it knowing they're going to be in the same car. They actively make that choice. And also it's just the two of them. In Beth O'Leary's book, there's some friends in the car. So in this one, they choose to put themselves in the situation, and they are alone. So there is nothing to do but sit in very close quarters together and talk about their lives and what has happened in them. You know, Ben wanted to be a professional baseball player. He's now a middle school science teacher. And, you know, Dee does her podcast. And despite Dee having done some heavy internet stalking, they don't know who the other person has become, but they do know that they definitely dealt some damage themselves. Normally, a book like this that is so hyper focused on the two of them and their relationship really wouldn't do it for me. I'm a person who really loves and sometimes needs a vibrant supporting cast, or at least, you know, something else happening outside of just the relationship drama to really illuminate the characters as full, well-rounded people. And while Ben does have stuff going on with his family, and that comes up later on, more in the end, you get more characters, the bulk of this book really is focused on them in the car redoing this road trip and going to places they stopped before, trying to relive memories they can't relive, or, you know, like I said, finding out who they are. And I was unsure how I felt about that. The writing here, Morrissey has a very literary writing style in some places, so some of it really is, I don't want to say like inner monologues about their thoughts, but it's a very interior, very intense relationship book. And if that's the kind of thing that you love, I mean, you can stop right here. Just go get it. You will love this book, I'm pretty sure. But if you're like me and aren't so sure about that, I do have to say that again, I came to love it. I came to really enjoy it. It is outside of my normal, but again, it's written in such a way that their emotions and their relationships were so intense that I didn't mind it being basically the thing in this book. I think the extra redeeming quality, and again, I don't want to spoil it, but I think the extra redeeming quality was, you know, 75% in, something gotta happen. And I think what I enjoyed was that even though the reason they had broken up 10 years ago turns out to be like this silly miscommunication that was just ridiculous, and I kind of thought, oh, is something like that going to happen again at the 75% mark? I really just appreciated that what happened to them was more of a very adult understanding of, you know what, this can't be fixed like that. There's no magic spell that will cause our lives to fall back into place. We can't automatically become best friends again after 10 years. And there's stuff that, again, smaller stuff, but stuff they're working through individually that kind of has to take precedent over how fragile their new relationship is. And so I appreciated that. I always hate when there's like that fight and it's the stupidest bit of miscommunication you ever could see. And so I felt like if I was still on the fence about anything about this book being super relationship intense, that was like the extra thing for me to put it over the top to say, this is just a really good book and I enjoyed it. It's hard really to say too much else about this book because it is so relationship hyper focused, but I do have to say that there was one scene where they go to a baseball game and it's absolutely hilarious. And so in case you're wondering, like, oh, when I said like literary writing and relationship hyper focused, like, is it very emotional and like not a happy, like lighthearted book? And that is absolutely not true. And so I just want to say, like, also in case I've been telling you about this incorrectly, especially the scene at the baseball game, I was laughing my head off. I'm a huge baseball fan and absolute shenanigans ensue. So I just want to make a very specific pitch here that even though this is a relationship second chance book, it is still funny. You will still laugh and you will still get to enjoy them working their stuff out. So just want to clarify. All in all, like I already said, if you are the kind of person that really enjoys books that really truly center a relationship, that are written well, that have both humor and emotion, I can say fairly confidently that you will probably enjoy this book. Again, every reader is different, but I feel like that is really who this book is written for people like me who like broader casts and some different things going on. I can see why maybe you wouldn't, but for me, I'm glad I took the chance, because I feel like just between the writing and the relationship itself and it being a second chance book, I did enjoy it in the end. Again, it's not my favorite book in the whole world, but I do think that either way, if you're on the fence, check it out from your local library, or however it is you get your books, and give it a shot. I think you'll enjoy it. And if you enjoy this, you should also read The Road Trip by Beth O'Leary, but that is a different reading experience. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that this was a little bit different. It was a little bit outside of my comfort zone, but I just appreciated it in the end. Taking a chance paid off. So go ahead and do the same. Or not. I can't tell you what to read. These are but my humble and individual opinions. So if you have other second chance romances that you think I should be reading, let me know down in the comments. Otherwise, I will see you guys next time. Bye.